Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of CCR, Colton and Craig's Ramblings. This time, our special guest is one Mr. Robert. Say hi, Robert.
Hello.
So, today's topic is going to be philosophy and our opinions on it, and we're going to be just kind of discussing our belief systems and how we think people should think. So, on the heels of American Psycho and Batman, this is the next episode. Um, so for I forgot it. Oh, okay. So I guess okay. So an abortion.
You both like American Psycho, don't you?
Patrick Bateman. I like Patrick. I like Patrick Bateman. Are
I
you hearing?
must. Yes,
Do you
I'm hearing you.
hear? Do you understand? Like, are you reading between the lines? Are you
Yes.
intelligent enough to
Yes.
fully comprehend? You are.
100%. Yep. 100%.
All right.
Fun
Just want
fact, that's the first movie ever that actually disturbed me a little bit.
to. That would have been much funnier if you just ended it at "That's the first movie ever."
It is. Don't you know?
All right. So, um, just so we can have we'll go a little bit around robin here. Robert, Robert, that's funny, funny. Uh, where, what experience do you have with philosophy? Is there any philosophers or political thinkers that you like to talk about, like to deal with, like to be around?
Honestly, the only one that I've really looked into and started listening to is Jordan Peterson, or
Jordan
as
Peterson.
Jordan B. Peterson, as you like to say, Craig.
Oh, B. Peterson. What does the B stand for, Robert?
I have no idea.
Stands for
Zero.
Bartholomew.
Bartholomew. Really?
Yeah, he's named after Saint Bartholomew. His family is because you know how France colonized part of Canada, and there's like the people in Quebec.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Yeah, so he's
That
half
makes sense.
Quebec, and his family was Catholic for a long was really Catholic. And it's the patron Saint. He was one of the first ones from France was Saint Bartholomew. So that's where that middle name comes from.
Oh shit. Okay.
And then
Fuck.
Colton, what philosophical background do you have?
Well, I just realized I wasn't recording with my mic that I'm using for the past 3 minutes, so I haven't been talking for the past 3 minutes. But that's
Oh,
whatever.
good.
Don't worry.
Anyway, um, I don't really follow a single person. I'm pretty much the majority of people having like a loose philosophy based on personal happenings and people I surround myself with in my personal life.
And Metal Gear Solid.
Metal Gear Rising, actually.
Sorry. Um, I personally, as my friends and anybody who will listen, by the way, not just my friends, strangers, coworkers, customers at my job, could tell you, I personally like the teachings of Friedrich Nietzsche, and yeah, he's like the big one.
Hmm.
Mostly, a lot of my philosophy comes from Nietzsche. There's a little bit of the ideas of Hegel in there. Then there's a couple of other philosophers who I shouldn't say their name because I get in trouble. Um, Julius Evola is kind of weird, but he has some ideas. Um, and that's kind of what I like, who I follow. And then Senator Armstrong, obviously,
Of
Hmm.
course.
Of
of
course.
course.
I forgot to mention him, but
I feel like Senator Armstrong, the Joker, and Patrick Bateman is all kind of like implied.
Your top three fictional characters.
It's like saying Jesus is fictional.
Aw.
That is to imply that we don't know if Patrick Bateman was real or not. Colton,
You're
maybe he
right.
was.
Maybe Senator
Maybe he
Armstrong
wasn't.
exists. Maybe the
Probably, he
Joker
probably does.
exists.
Maybe he probably does. It sounds right. But Robert, what do you think should be some of our governing principles in like society?
Society.
Hmm. Very good question.
What's up?
This guy.
What?
What do you need?
Me?
Heroin.
Yeah, so you got a question.
Oh, I said very good question. I'm thinking.
Oh, all right.
You need to give him some time on this, Quig.
All
Yes,
right.
I like that. Well, important stuff I like to think out rather than just splattering it out of my
All right.
mouth.
Verbal vomit.
Well, I'm my verbal vomit winds up being very palatable. At least I think it is. So I'm more of a shoot from the hip sort of person.
Well, I don't know enough. I don't think about this stuff enough to have it just on standby.
Yeah, I get that.
Ready to fire.
Um, well, that makes sense. It's weird that I do.
Maybe you can start us, Craig.
I was about to start us. I just wanted to. Was kind of
Oh.
hoping someone would interject.
Well, I'll be able to build off you.
Well,
Don't worry.
Yeah, Robert
Perfect.
and I need
So-
time to think.
You guys can think. I'll let you think. I'll give you that.
Like we
privilege.
can hear the papers rustling of your speech. that
You
you've
can
prepared.
you can tell that I'm verbally like straightening the documents, like tapping them against a hard edge, so that way they're all together.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so personally, I think that one of our core ideas should be that the weak should fear the strong, and not in like a sense of barbarism, like oh, the biggest man in the village gets to like attack the little men in the village, because that's kind of cringe. But I believe that at least within the nation, hyper-nationalism is necessary in this day and age. Because we've kind of been trying this whole globalism thing out for the last who knows how long, 20 years. Really, when the Soviet Union left us high and dry, is when we started really trying to figure this out. And it's clear that it failed, and that it's done way more harm than it could ever do good. And with social cohesion at an all-time low, I think that the best course of action right now is to really push nationalism hard. Because people don't really identify with the country like they used to. So I believe in nationalism, strength. I think that and when I say the weak should fear the strong, I mean like the weak people should be scared. They should feel ostracized. They should feel constant social pressure to act like everyone else, to act normal. I think that we kind of got in our heads at one point, like, oh, everybody can be their own person and it'll all just be fun and happy and we'll just hang out and just do whatever and it doesn't matter as long as you're not hurting anybody. But I personally think that that's a terrible way to build a society, because if your only focus is just not physically harming anybody, you don't really have any morals to like impose. So what holds you together other than this loose idea of don't physically attack Bill or Paul?
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that we should impose way more social pressure on the weirdos to make them not weird. Because as a former weirdo, and I say that with my whole chest, I was a weirdo. People were concerned that I was,
In the room.
one of those guys. Weird, quiet white kid type beat. I can tell you that the social pressure that was exerted on me to make me assimilate and act like a normal, rational person, like, yeah, in the moment it sucked, but looking back, thank Christ for it. Not because, like, because what if I did something crazy? It's like, no, I'm a better person for having gone through bullying, for having gone through, the shit tests that go with being in part of a society. And I think that we all have sat down and we've been like, the process of the Ubermensch and becoming it, we don't need that. You are immediately perfect. And, you don't need to go through any philosophical change. You're perfect. Because you know how no one else in history was ever born perfect? That fucking changed. That's right. the Berlin Wall fell, people became born perfect. Those glaring problems that you have, those problems that literally everybody looking around can see very clearly, the things that they point and laugh at because you have all these problems, those don't count. It's them. I think we as a society need to be like, hey, weirdo, your hair's blue. Leave. What's wrong with you? Why is your hair blue? What did you do? You're stupid. You're dumb. You're strange. You're different and therefore wrong. Like, we need to stop incentivizing people to just, I don't want to say go their own way or do their own thing, but it's like, dude, why are we letting the weirdos have all this not political, but like social leverage over the normal?
Mm.
You guys get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of libertarians, and this is where I guess I'm kind of attacking Colton, so my bad, are fucking stupid. Their dicks are small. But also, fuck, that was a knee slapper right there.
Anyway.
I think that a lot of libertarians cling on to the social cohesion that we once had, as opposed to acknowledging the lack of it now. Like, they remember when we were in such a society that, 50, 20, fuck it, 20, the Obama administration, even. When Barack Obama was in office, you told everybody, if everybody just kind of minded their own business and took personal responsibility for their actions, we would be in a great nation in which everybody took personal responsibility, was man enough to be like, you know what, I need to change and I need to take that responsibility to act like a grown-up and do things that are easy, not because they're easy, but because they're hard, and change, and not invoke my will on other people and do all the things that libertarians say to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I believe personally that that's a very outdated model, kind of reliant on the way that things used to be as opposed to how they are now. So it is a very American idea to tell people, oh, just don't hurt anybody and you're fine. Sounds really nice and it sounds very American because it is, but it's an old America. It's an America, I don't want to say that isn't around anymore, because I like to think that in our lifetime we'll see it again, but it's an America that is a long ways off from where we are now.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I don't trust people anymore based on, I don't care what side you're on, whether you're with the Republicans or the Democrats or the communist. Well, I don't like you if you're a communist, but even if you are a communist, I think you should leave. But more importantly, like, no matter what side you're on, I think we can all acknowledge that we've gone so far down a poor path in which you can't trust people the way that you used to act right. Whether it's people saying that racism's at an all-time high, it's the worst it's ever been, racism's never been worse. Or if you think it's anti-white propaganda being, put out there, I just realized you can very easily tell what side I'm on based on just that sentence. It took very little to figure out my political affiliation based on that sentence. But no matter what side you're on at this point, I think we can all acknowledge that you can't trust people as much as you used to.
Mm.
And during a more moderate time, during a time when there was higher social cohesion, higher social trust, when people, it's weird for me to call Obama a true moderate because he wasn't, but he certainly was by today's standards. But if you were to take that administration and put them in now, they're highly moderate, and it just shows that how polarized we've all became.
Mm.
And I just think that we can't trust people anymore to behave. So I think that we need to impose social will on people to conform and act right, and just be like, hey, dude, we're not, you're going to be socially ostracized. People aren't going to employ you. It's your fault for getting a tattoo on your face. That's weird. You're weird. We need to look at people. We need to say, hey, dog, you got a swastika on your leg. You should probably not be at the gym right now. You should probably go home and not come back. And that is true, by the way. There's a guy with 2 swastikas on his calves at my gym.
I saw that.
Yeah, I've told everybody about that because I don't know how he just walks around. Like, that's my point. Like, we're at a point where like nobody really seems to put any amount of social pressure on anybody. It's like, dude, pressure people into doing what's right. And then we also need to, from like a governmental standpoint, stand up and be like, listen, guys, I don't really like telling you what to do, but it's clear you need to be told what to do. And this is more in the context of bigger companies and people with a lot of power. But Bill Gates isn't hurting anybody by buying all that land. But is that not the sketchiest shit you've ever heard of?
Mm-hmm.
Hey,
It
this
is.
tech billionaire is buying up all of the farmland. Why is that, Bill? There's something about investment. Dog, you don't need to invest anymore. Put the money down. You're done. You're 70. You're 70 years old. You're the wealthiest man on the planet. What the fuck are you investing for? You got one kid who's going to inherit all your shit, and she's going to be the wealthiest person on the planet. Why do you need all that farmland? Or it's like BlackRock buying up all the real estate. It's like, well, it's a great investment. I don't care.
No. BlackRock. I have a thing about that, but continue.
And that's kind of more from the political. So, like, social side is telling the people with the blue hair, telling the communists, telling people who have swastika tattoos to, like, hey, knock that off. Don't come back to the gym. Don't come back to work. You're fired. Get out of here. That's the social side. I think that the political side is going to be, I think personally, that there should be a personally assigned death squad to Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk. Warren Buffett is too much of a nerd to do anything. Just like, I'm not even going to say it's a personal thing. That's an objective fact. He's too much of a loser. Fight me. But we need to have, in my personal opinion, have a personal death squad with a phone line directly to the president. Be like, hey guys, we found out Bill Gates is, doing all this shady shit. Oh, that's crazy. We're going to shoot him real quick. These people are doing such nefarious actions and they have so much money and power that it's like, you can't really, what are you going to do? Find the wealthiest, most powerful man on the planet? He'll drag the court case out for 100 years with the best lawyers on the planet, and then he'll get off anyways.
Mm-hmm.
What are you going to do? Well, what are you going to do? It's like it's like if the Nazis were the one in charge of the Nuremberg trials. Like, oh yeah, it's totally going to be fair and just, right, guys? Totally. Because
100%.
What was that?
I said 100%.
Yeah. So I think that from like a governmental standpoint, we need to be like, hey guys, freedom and liberty shall not be infringed. You can still have your gun. I'm a big supporter of gun rights. Everybody should have a gun. I think everybody should open carry. We would all mind our business a lot more. Maybe you'd stop looking at me funny in the gym, swastika guy. Stop looking at me funny just because I'm sweaty. Why are you not sweaty? He and I have secret beef. He doesn't even know about it. It's so secret. This is true fact. But like, it's one of those things where it's like, over a certain amount of wealth, power, and prestige, there should just be a rule that's like, hey, if you have more than $10 billion in your pocket, you don't get rights anymore. You don't get to vote. And we're going to keep like a personal, maybe not a death squad per se, but like a personal Secret Service squad to protect you. And if we find out you're doing anything highly nefarious, such as buying all the farmland to help strangle American people alive, they can quickly and, justly do what needs to be done to keep our country together. Because, I feel like that's the best option here. And I think that it's like one of those things where it's like, dude, they use this it's this post-Soviet ideas, like this. It's not even really philosophy; it's economic doctrine that we built our society around, which is cringe. But we have this economic doctrine now built around this idea of like, oh, you have no, what was it? A company's only obligation is to provide profit to its shareholders, which is like a terrible thing to just like say. There's like, well, what are they going to be here, Craig, for if it's not to make money? Like, yeah, they'll make money, but they're only. Do you know how strong of a word "only" is? They're only, and you have. It's been a long-standing thing where you can tell that they're. I keep using the word philosophy for economic doctrine, but they treat it like it's their philosophy. They quote it the same way that some people would quote a philosopher, so I'm going to call it their philosophy. And their philosophy is hyper greedy. It's globalist in nature, and it's very questionable, to say the least, at their motives. And I think that that's like part of why we as a society need to pick up Nietzsche's doctrine, Nietzsche's philosophy. We need to pick up Socrates. We need to pick up Aristotle. We need to pick up people who don't put money in the highest regard, because right now, money is virtue, right? It's treated that way. People seem to act like it. Money is virtue. There are people who worship Elon Musk just because, he has infinity, billion, quintillion dollar ruse, without looking at what is he actually doing. Hey, Elon, why are you trying to put chips in people's brains? What's the deal with that? You know? This has kind of gotten out of left field quickly.
I mean, not really.
Okay.
Not
No,
really? Okay, good.
you're good.
Okay, I'm sometimes worried I'm too tangential, but
But
philosophically speaking. Or continue, Colton?
I was just gonna say, well, what about SpaceX for Elon Musk? He's been doing.
To be honest,
What?
continue.
No. Continue.
I was going to say, to be honest, I'm not as worried about SpaceX because rocket ships are neat or whatever, but they don't have the devastating capacity that putting a literal robot chip in someone's brain has.
Okay.
Like, do you remember when schizophrenics were the only ones suggesting that billionaires put chips in your brain?
No.
It wasn't.
Well,
It wasn't. It was in our lifetimes, and the oldest person here is like 20. 20?
20. By the way, 21?
Colin's not 21.
In November, I will.
The oldest person here is 20. And we were all alive in a time where the notion of a billionaire putting chips in your brain and you paying for him to put chips in your brain was either science fiction or a conspiracy theory. And now, instead of it being seen as like, wow, yeah, this is spitting in the face of God, instead it's like, well, think about how much better you could compete in the workforce if you could just Google shit in your brain. It's like, I don't care. I do not care how good it would be for the market. I don't care how innovative. I don't care whatever stupid garbage reason you have. I don't care. It's dumb. You're dumb. Furthermore, why? Why is it that important? What it's like one of those things where they're constantly like, isn't this new technical advancement so great? Like, nah, dog. It looks to me like we're spitting in the face of God, and we're gonna be real surprised when something catastrophic happens.
I actually have a thing about that. I've come up with several points during your speech. Okay, I will start at the beginning because whatever's most recent I'll remember better. So, a thing like in our society that we should really go back to is, like you were saying, bullying. Bullying's important because it makes people who are weird like me. No one liked me in elementary school. Everybody hated me.
And middle school.
And middle school.
And high school, too.
Actually, I did change freshman year of high school.
Thank you, Cole. That was very funny.
I started changing. But
and
that
college
was
and work.
And at home.
and then in my friend groups. And then through the drive-thrus. They don't serve me anymore.
Anyway.
I thought we were friends.
But bullying, I think, is important because it makes you change. It forces you to conform more. Now, bullying can be taken too far. Actually, when I think bullying, I think school. Another thing with schooling, or in the school system, violence has been completely removed. Like, if somebody punches you in the face and you punch them back, you both get 3 days of in-school suspension. What? He punched me in the face first. Oh, I'm supposed to just like get down on my hands and knees and grovel while he just kicks the living crap out of me? No. And I thought about that when I was in middle school. I said that to the behavior specialist, and he's like, well, no, you're just supposed to take it. And it's like, what?
Fuck you.
What?
Yeah, exactly. It's stupid. It's like,
Uh,
no, fights should be something that happen. Oh, they got in a fight. It's a scrap, anyways. Now,
well, or continue.
it depends on the not the intensity, but like if you know, like three punches are exchanged, I don't think it needs to be taken. Like if somebody said something to somebody, but if it's like somebody's going after somebody, you know, like they beat the shit out of that guy on the weekly basis, something needs to be done. And I don't
Yeah,
mean like, oh, well,
it's a gym.
I talked to Terrence. I talked to his parents, and it'll change. Nothing's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Stupid. But
Or do you have another point, or is this the end of this point?
I guess that I think it's important in there's a uh, there's a balance to it. It can be overdone and it can be very much underdone. I know people that didn't get enough of it, and some people that might have gotten too much.
Yeah, I think that our biggest problem with I said with society, our biggest problem, I personally think, with bullying, I think is like how like kind of like you said how it's done and like what's done about it. I think that most little boys, and I say little, I mean like 9 or 10 or whatever, they can handle fighting. They can handle. This isn't. We're not at a point yet because we're gonna go. I'm just gonna go on a timeline.
Hmm.
An 11-year-old boy can handle another 11-year-old boy picking on him, hitting him, punching him, kicking him. Like, yeah, is it gonna fucking suck? It's gonna fucking suck. Life sucks. Life's a bitch, and then you marry one. The whole hullabaloo with that. But I think that because bullying still very much so exists, and I'd argue it's worse now than it was at any other point in our country's history because of how it happens. It used to be like little Billy keeps beating up on little Tommy. Yeah, little Tommy, go hit the gym, be a fucking man, and beat him up back. Like it just it encourages self growth. Now, well, yes, if you get cyberbullied, you're a bitch. That's life. You kept reading those comments. In that same vein, though, most young boys and even most young girls can't handle it. It's more of a feminine form of bullying now. It's like it's very verbal. It's very harassment. It's not like, oh, I'm going to go hit you. It's going to go be. If this isn't a challenge of arms, this
It's
is
a
ooh.
battle.
Let's see who can verbally fence better.
Exactly.
And it's spiritually feminine. It's spiritually female. It's how women are. And when you force these little boys into this very feminine way of living, it fucks with their minds. I think that's why there's so many cowards now. Why people feel so comfortable being so disrespectful, and they're real surprised when you hit them.
Hmm.
It's like, oh, what you? It's like, oh, Craig, you're fat and gay, and then they're real surprised when you punch them in the mouth, and they're like, what? He hit me. Yeah, you little bitch. You challenged me.
Hmm.
I responded like a grown ass man with violence, like a normal man would, and you're a little bitch.
I have a perfect example of this. Remember that one kid named
Yes,
Kevin
I
or
do.
whatever?
I do remember Kevin.
Yeah. Well, Kevin bothered the shit out of me for like 2 or 3 years, just being an annoying little cunt. And at one point, I got so fed up that I chased him down and like threw him into lockers and threw him on the ground and said I'm gonna kick the shit out of him if he ever does this again. You know what happened to Kevin? He never spoke to me again. He just respectfully kept his distance. I mean, he was never like scared or anything. He just didn't fucking
You knew that there was a price. You fuck around, then you find out.
exactly, and it
We've,
fixed it. And I dealt
yeah,
with it. Told him to stop for like 3 years. Obviously, verbal bullshit wasn't gonna work. And I didn't even like hurt him. I literally like, threw him with his own body weight onto the ground.
he was
Like
small.
it didn't hurt him.
Yeah,
He fell down like 3 times, and it worked. People like Kyle Bonnie, he is another example of he's really fucking annoying. And if you were to slap him, what one slap across the face, open hand, like medium strength, like a nice, just your arm's
nice.
weight, would clear him up, would sober him right up and realize that he needs to shut the fuck up and stop bothering you.
Yeah, and see, it was. I never had a good example of that because I was typically the aggressor.
Hmm.
But I can tell you honestly, from before high school, more into middle school, it creates this weird power dynamic that is wrong. Like in your heart of hearts, you're really confused because you'll see, like when I mentioned like school bullies, you may have somebody who's not actually physically stronger or better than you in your head. You might have somebody physically inferior to you, but who's able to harass you more ferociously, right?
Mm.
We've created this such a perversion of how like it normally works. Like typically there is, the biggest, strongest rules, right? And there's a normal social hierarchy built around somebody being the best. And we've completely restructured what was the best into being this fucking perversion of it, wherein, oh, if you're able to be the biggest little bitch and hide behind enough red tape, that's how you become the fucking epic guy. It just incentivizes kids to become such fucking pussies. You
Yes.
remember
Yeah,
what
go ahead.
was it, Preston? I
Preston.
remember that little fella. We were Josh brought his speaker.
Oh yeah. I remember that.
Yeah, and that little fella, I could see he was making fun of us, and I kept telling him, "Man, I don't know what you're playing. I can see you're playing something. Don't try it, little guy. Don't try, little dude. You're maybe 100 pounds. I'm 260 of man meat, like grown man meat. Like I'm menacing. I'm trying to warn you, little man, little dude." And he didn't listen, and he was real fucking surprised when I threw him across the hall.
Because you went for
We've
that speaker.
Yeah, because he grabbed the speaker, fucking threw him into a table. And then, of course, he acted. And I said, "You know what, man? My bad. I kind of overreacted. I didn't realize it was a joke. I didn't know what you were doing." Then he was a little bitch about it. And I was like, "You know what, man? Fuck you." But we created, I point blank said it was Frau Ingerson's class. He sat across from me. Like, "My bad for throwing you, dog." And he's like, "Oh, sit down." And I said, "You know what? Eat shit. Fuck you up again." Trying to be fucking cordial. But see, that's my point, is it creates this perversion of normal like hierarchy in which the person who's objectively in the wrong feels as though they like, oh, I'm gonna be a little bitch, and he's just gonna be like a fucking coward about it. No, dog. I fucked you up once physically. I'll fuck you up again verbally. I don't care. Eat shit. You're
It's
weak. I'm strong. I tried to be fucking cordial, and you wanted to be a little bitch, and we've allowed young men to be little bitch boys.
it's like as if they're
You
in
know?
like a courtroom and they're using everything against
Yeah,
you.
Yeah.
yeah. We've turned like were it up to me, schools would have a boxing ring in every room, and every day at lunch should be like they just randomly draft two kids to fight. You know why? Builds fucking confidence. Even if you lose the fight, you build a certain amount of confidence in yourself. As
Because you
someone
want
who's
to win.
been, yeah, you learn certain things. You learn, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't go around talking shit because this wasn't fun. Or if you're like me, you find out that you're tougher than the average bear, and you're like, man, this was a lot of fun. But yeah, we've just incentivized people to be such pussies at this point where it's like everybody acts like we're always in a courtroom. And it's like, you're really surprised when I slap the shit out of you. And it's like, I don't know how to say this in any way that doesn't sound so contradictory, but it does sound contradictory. It's like, this is how a civilized society works. Like, oh, that's not very civilized, Craig. Yeah, it's not very civilized. And I get why it sounds like, not controversial. What's the word?
Twisted logic.
Contradictory. Yeah, it sounds very contradictory. Yeah, but in a civilized society, you have a reason to stay civilized, a reason to act like the best, act like everyone else.
Hmm.
And a weird social hierarchy built on like picking at each other like a bunch of fucking women isn't really a civilized society. It's held together by like a social pecking order as opposed to a social hierarchy in which it's not in a traditional way a civilized society. The Wild West was a highly civilized society in which if you were a little bitch boy and you went around pissing everybody off, one day somebody just shot you. It's like enforcement of societal standards and rules. And we've taken away all the enforcement of them and just we've allowed roles to reverse in such a catastrophic way that it's affected everything. People don't value physical strength the way that they used to. Like now we're kind of coming back more with like bodybuilding and shit, and the gym, hitting the gym and all that shit's gotten really big, which is good. But it's still not in like the way of, I don't say strength. It's more about physical strength than about like strength of character, strength of personality. You know, real adversity has been taken out of most young people's lives.
Yeah.
A rite of passage for so many kids used to be standing up to the school bully, and that's why they made so many fucking movies about it. Things that build character, things that like standing up to your bully, standing up to whoever, standing up to somebody. You don't fucking do that anymore. It doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
The society that churned out people who were strong were people who were like, you know what, I'm going to stand up for myself. The reason why every movie in the 1980s followed that same basic logic was because it was the most normal sounding shit ever to them. Oh yeah, this is the fucking school bully, and then just he does his thing, and then one day you stand up to him, and everybody loves you. It's so foreign to like how we like. What is the rite of passage for kids these days?
There is none.
Yeah, Colton, can you think of one?
Not really.
Yeah, there's not really one that I can think of either. We've removed adversity, we've removed physical conflict, and we've replaced it with a very feminine, in my opinion, way of living. And where, oh, everybody's equal, don't fight back, don't fight each other. It is exponentially worse for people to sit around and be little catty bitches, act like women. So I say people, I mean for young boys, men, than it is for them to fight. Physical conflict is so much more in a little boy's nature than it is for like, oh, let's talk it out. Let's go get the principal and we'll talk it out. I didn't like him. I hit him. He now knows I don't like him. Works exponentially better than this weird system that we have now. And I think that this ties back into at least my personal philosophy of like strength over everything. The strong should fear the weak, or the weak should fear the strong. We've removed people's ability to become strong, and we're sitting around confused why everybody's such a bitch. And it's like, well, it's kind of what happens.
It I was gonna say that something kind of does. People with sharp tongues. People with sharp tongues. Let's say that they're the aggressor. Well, usually people with sharp tongues aren't very strong.
Yeah,
Very, very rarely are people who have sharp tongues physically. What's the word? Have
it's
physical
like,
prowess.
yeah,
And whenever there's somebody who's an aggressor with a sharp tongue, well, it's like, well, how about I just punch you in your fucking mouth?
yeah,
But since they've removed that, people who don't have wit or people who just don't have it developed. Now, I used to be fucking well. I'm still as dumb as a rock, but I have a couple more edges on me now,
yeah.
and I'm a bit more witful. I can
On the
think. I
front
can.
of
I
your
can.
head.
The genome got a little bit sharper.
One or two
Chromosome.
more chromosomes. You're no longer down quite as so many.
Yeah, they got some edges on them.
Jesus Christ.
But but I developed that wit later, and now I can throw stuff back and forth. But before, when I was younger, it's like, well, somebody's being like mean to you with just their words. They just, they have a sharp tongue and you fucking don't. Well, you can't do nothing.
Yeah,
But if you're able to just punch the person in the mouth, for one, they're not gonna fucking mess with you anymore. Just won't happen. Like, because they're a sharp tongue individual. That's all they do is talk. They're just a talker. You punch them once, they're like, okay, I don't want no more of this. They don't do physical violence.
yeah.
Now, there's a difference between someone who's a sharp tongue aggressor and someone who's defensively sharp tongue. Because somebody's picking on somebody and then they're like, well, I mean, how hard can it be to just punch people in the face or something similar to that nature? That's different.
Yeah,
That should be encouraged because building your wit to be used defensively is good. That's something everybody should learn how to do. But using it as an aggressor, well, it should be met with just like a touch of physical violence, just like a slap, a hit,
just a
no more than
spoonful.
that. Just a small spoonful,
A
not a.
king batch spoonful.
That's too much. That's too much spoon.
This-
But I feel like that should happen.
yeah,
because it gets people like Kyle Bonney who
You hate
literally. I hate that little fucker. I hate him so goddamn much.
Colton. Do you remember that kid, that little fella Kyle,
I can
about two
see
feet
him.
tall? Colton, you remember him?
He was smaller than my pinky. What are you talking about? Little gnome.
I,
A little gnome.
it does not ring a
Robert.
bell.
Yeah, because he wasn't that big of a character.
No, he
He
was just.
was like, if our high school experience was a television show, I think it would have been like 4 episodes, maybe.
3. Well,
Maybe.
no, 4 because Ian also did it.
Robert has talked about uh, Kyle more than Kyle and Robert have interacted,
But
and that is how much Robert hates that kid.
he is the perfect example, though.
Yeah, I
He's
know. It doesn't-
he's 5'2". He weighs 98 pounds. He's fucking with people. He messed with Ian. Ian's 6'4", weighs 300 and something pounds. 1 second.
But yeah, I mean that's the thing is we've strayed away from like very natural orders of things, in that
Yeah.
physical strength would meant a lot. Used to mean a lot to people. People used to be like scared of getting punched in the face. People used to be scared of physical violence. People used to be like a little bit frightened, like, oh, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't go outside that congressman's house because maybe something bad would happen if I go out and protest in front of somebody's fucking house for a month. Or maybe I shouldn't sit around and just fuck with people for fun. You know, it's just so different now because we've completely made the idea, even the smidgen, the notion, the hypothetical what if of responding in the most natural and I believe right response, which is violence, is to be like, oh damn, that's crazy, and then attack someone. We've made the whole idea of responding in the most natural way humanly possible. We've made that idea grotesque. It's wrong. It's weird. Why are you so aggressive?
Exactly. I have
It's like
two things. Again, once you're done.
we live in a society, bottom text, but also they want to see everybody so pasteurized. It's like, why do you want to see people so soft and weak? What is the appeal of a society of people which are afraid of the thing? Like, violence is natural, it's normal, and if you get people comfortable with the idea of it, it's harder to fearmonger them with it.
Exactly. It's about control.
Yeah.
And they've been doing it since we were in kindergarten. Remember? I swear, or whatever, my hands and my words are not for my hurting myself or others. And when I was a little tiny kid, you know what I thought? What if Terrence hits me?
What if Kyle Bonney attacks me again?
He wasn't even a sperm cell. He wasn't a thought in his father's mind.
Father? Pretty sure he's got 2 moms.
Oh, really? I wouldn't be surprised.
I just meant that his dad was a pussy, not that his parents were lesbians.
Wow.
Either or wouldn't surprise me. But they've been doing that since we were children to get the idea of violence out of our minds. And an example of responding with physical violence. Remember when I was in the wheelchair? I was in my English class, and I was going to the back, and there was this guy. I forget his name. I think it was Jeremy. Something with a J. I remember his face. But he was sitting there, head on his desk, and when I was in the wheelchair, I was much more chipper and cheerful because
I
no
know,
one
it
likes
was
the
weird.
depressed cripple. Well, it's like I had the realization no one's going to like the depressed cripple. Be the funny cripple. Everyone loves the funny cripple. It's funny. So I did, and it changed my personality for very much the better. Being a little bit silly and having fun with
Little
shit,
goofy dude.
everybody should be doing that. The whole serious thing, there are times to be serious and there are times to be silly. It's very, very important. But
Yes.
I was going to the back of the class, and I was like, "Oh, come on, man! I gotta roll past you. I gotta roll into that spot of mine. I gotta sit there." And he looks at me and just goes, "Shut the fuck up!" In the most. The reason why this bothers me, and this is a great example, my immediate reaction was to fucking punch him in the mouth. To just jump out of the wheelchair, my crippled ass, and just beat the shit out of him. Just punch him in the face until somebody drug me off of him. Because he didn't do it for a reason. I was being all silly and haha funny. It may have been first period in the morning, but like, that's what I do. That's how I am. And him to just turn and just be like, shut the fuck up. For no reason, just cut a nerve. And I would have done it had Calvin not been there, because I was worried Calvin was going to pull me off the guy, and then the guy was just going to lay into me because I don't have my legs working very good.
Yeah.
Which I
Calvin's
found out
restraining you, trying to break up the fight as the other guy beats the shit out of you.
exactly. I thought
Robert,
no, and
fucking
I thought about that for 30 minutes or like an hour. I was just sitting in the class thinking about attacking him the entire time, and then thinking about Calvin pulling me off. And I'm like, is it worth the chance that Calvin's going to do that and I'm going to get the shit punched out of me? At the end of it, I was like, no. But my initial reaction was violence because he had just spat in my face verbally for
it's
no reason.
disrespectful.
For no reason. If there would have been a reason, if I would have like been smacking him or fucking some other bullshit, sure, makes sense. But to be chipper and cheerful and being like, "Oh come on, man, I got to roll in my spot." I was being funny. I was making a joke that I'm in a wheelchair and I roll, you know. And him just turn and say that, it just it made me violent, which I honestly is the appropriate reaction because I didn't deserve it. If I would have deserved it, no, I deserved it. Pretty straightforward.
Yeah. Colton, are you eating chips?
Nope.
Yep, me.
Oh. I've been trying to figure out why Colton's been so quiet, and I imagine it's because Colton, do you disavow violence?
I mean, yes and no.
This is turned into CRR.
Yeah.
Let's hear from Colton. Let's see Colton's business card.
Let's see.
That joke would have been funny if I could say your full name, but I didn't want to dox you on accident.
Good man.
But what do you think about like the
Hold on.
current
Okay,
state?
come. I just fucking. I was on my mic cord, and like I got up from my chair, and then it fucking unplugged. So that's why I was cut off mid sentence. Anyway,
Very.
what was the question you were saying?
So Robert and I are kind of talking about how society expects you to act, and both Robert and I both agree that violence is like a pretty viable, if not like the right option, more often than not when it comes to like handling things like blatant disrespect or conflict, and that expecting people to just peacefully talk everything out and act like women is just not good for society. It's not good for the kids involved. It's not good for anyone.
Mm-hmm.
What
And
do
it
you
doesn't
think?
work.
I mean, I like it and dislike it at the same time. There should there should be a boxing ring at every school. I think that would be fun. And like there can even be gambling. That's probably not a healthy idea, but whatever. Um, I definitely think there should be a referee though, to avoid someone going overboard on the other guy.
It's principle.
I like that idea.
And the principal, like on his resume, he must be like buff and as shit.
Strong enough to tear two high schoolers apart in a fist fight.
Exactly.
We need 3 plate on the deadlift, two plate on the bench, non-negotiable.
I
But-
agree.
But yeah, that would be a cool idea. Like you see like a scarp in the hallway, and like a teacher goes by like, hey, stop it. Let's settle this like
Save
gentlemen.
it for the night.
And then they just take them to the fucking boxing ring.
I mean,
And
even
we can have bleachers, we can have concessions, we can have gambling. It'll be awesome.
I just think that we need to get kids more tough. It's like, dude, why is like the baseline bitch made?
Hmm.
Yeah.
And
In a boxing, you're wearing gloves.
yeah, I mean they have it. They have them in the army. Why not in schools?
There you go. Although I also believe in mandatory conscription. So
Well, here's the thing. I don't.
really,
Yes,
why is that?
because I don't like it. So we're talking about military conscription, right?
Yeah, but this is a separate topic.
Yeah.
True.
You haven't really gotten around yet to your view on society.
Society. Well, I wouldn't say I'm trying per se, but I'm gonna. How about no? I'm confident. I'm gonna say I am. I am a freelancer, and my views on philosophy and politics are quite mellow compared to previous me's, I guess. But
Mm.
I guess I'll try to drum up my ideal society. I feel like quoting you earlier, the American like don't hurt Bill or Bob. I feel like
What about
what?
what
Well,
about Paul
Paul
Allen?
Paul Allen. No one likes Paul Allen. Maybe Jared Leto.
No, did you hear that he was a raging homosexual addicted to cocaine? Part of
I
that whole
did.
Yale
Yale
thing.
thing.
I did.
I know, unbelievable
I know.
Not surprised.
I heard he was going to London for the week.
for the week.
Mhm.
I think that's what he said. I don't remember.
Maybe forever. We don't know.
We
Yeah,
do.
I don't know. But I've never met Paul. I
Maybe
haven't
he's
seen Paul in a while.
immigrating there.
Immigrated to England.
Because he's
Who's
obviously
giggling at that?
You're welcome.
that was Robert.
It's what I do.
I
But continue. Don't hurt Paul. Don't hurt Sue.
I feel like government should not be controlling nor fucking you know fucking weak.
Mm.
I feel like the police should be strong, but not strong enough to they can control the entire populace. Like if the entire public wanted to, they could take over, but decide not to.
I think
And
that the police should be absorbed into the army.
basically, yeah. And then the army act as MPs.
Well, because the police is like its own separate class of citizens.
Hmm.
Like the
Yeah.
people patrolling Compton, LA, are typically from white, nice parts of LA who have. They're usually of an upper class who have been cops or who like cops. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but when you compare that, the military is our most diverse place ever. But even though they're super diverse in like where they're from and what they think and who they are, they all have certain unifying ideas that make it. They're American patriots. They signed on that dotted line for our freedoms. So it's not like we don't know what they're about. But you let's say you get trained in like L.A. Oh shit, you want to be an MP? You get to go to fucking not Los, San Francisco, and that's where you're going to be a cop. Like I feel like in moving them around would be better. That way you don't have somebody who has any direct stake in like whatever's going on,
Hmm.
and it would be easier to fight police corruption that way.
Mm.
Yeah.
So putting people from different places in different places.
Yeah, it's like what the Romans would do. They would move. If you were from North Africa, you would probably be somewhere in Gaul, and if you were from somewhere in Gaul, you would probably wind up in the Middle East. Because no matter what your personal allegiance are back home, your allegiance are more likely than anything gonna be to us as opposed to whatever preconceived shit you had back then.
Hmm. I
But continue, Colton.
I don't feel like I don't feel like we should be a globalist like one nation on Earth. I mean, sure we're human beings and all, and we're the same species, but they are still like quirks and little things that make us well snowflakes. To quote that
Disagree.
Deus Ex quote, a like a politician in New York can't decide what's good for a city in France or a village in China.
Yeah.
Uh,
And by village, you mean those mud cities that fall apart because they're made out of, well, mud.
I
No.
respect the effort because have you seen what they do
With
with how little they have? Have you ever seen videos from Africa? It's like, how did you get a camera and a charger and Wi-Fi out there? You live in the desert, so that's kind of cool.
I think they stole it from South Africa.
If you, oh, I don't want to get rid of because we're I don't want to say we're not running out of time, as in we're not running that low, but we also have a ton left, and I
Yeah.
don't want to go on a tangent about
30.
South Africa because
Well,
I could take up the rest of the time. So, Colton, what are your economic policies? You're going to be president. We're interviewing you,
Oh shit. Okay.
President Colton. What are you going to do to bring back jobs to this country?
Oh shit. Oh. Okay. Okay. Hmm. Um. Public works because
Public work.
it's a it's a win-win because there's more jobs and at the end of the project it benefits the people.
I like that. That's a very interesting thing. How are you going to help solve our falling social trust and cohesion?
Soulful trust and cohesion. Well, well, first with immigration, I would do what Switzerland does, the skilled immigrants, because, well,
What does that mean? For those of us in the audience who have no idea what that means.
well, let's say you have a degree in, I don't know, medicine or whatever, or you completed a course through, I don't know, as a carpenter, then your chances of getting in this said country, let's call it Spermandy, um, you have a greater chance to get into it than someone who
Oh,
I don't know only has a high school diploma.
so like it's a meritocracy on who gets let in.
hmm Now I know there's that big old statue on the East Coast that says "Give me your poor," and don't get me wrong, those had like that motto does have benefits on its own, but like in the long run, it's kind of
It's clearly
it.
from a different era.
Yes, that's the words I
It's
was looking for.
yeah, it's clearly from a time when America had room and a booming economy and lots of room for people to spread out and a booming economy. It's very clearly a relic of a time that is not right now.
hmm
with a booming economy.
hmm
I I I don't want to list all the other things because I get very radical very quickly.
this is a
This
this is
whole
this is civilized. This is a civilized discussion, Craig.
I know that's the problem is that um this whole conversation is just been me trying to hold back as much as is humanly possible.
Oh no. Anyway, what other questions do you have?
So radicalism is increasing across the country. Very topical to what I just said.
hmm
What are you gonna do to help quell and reunify the nation?
I would promote third parties because
Third party.
the the Republican Democrat formula, the two-party system, is an ancient formula. So ancient, in fact,
Yeah.
that our founding fathers were there when they saw that.
I would argue our best founding father was against it.
Yes, I agree.
The founding father, I would argue, is the best, was against it. I realize the way I phrased that was strange.
Yeah.
George.
But anyway, and yeah, sure enough, like it's on the ballot, like American Families Party, Tea Party, blah 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 blah, Libertarian Party. But that's not enough. We need to promote them. Every other civilized country has more than two, well, dominant parties. Well, yeah. And before you say China, they have one party and they're not civilized. Joking,
No, they're not.
joking, mostly.
That's not really a joke, though.
Their government isn't civilized.
I would argue there. No, we can't get too far out in the weeds there, Craig. Be careful. We want to have sponsors one day.
But I just hate seeing, every 4 years, 2 years, looking at that political map, and I was like, wow, red and blue, and very, very, very small specks of gray or yellow.
Sanders.
It's very demoralizing, like, when you get in that voting booth and, alright, well, which color do I like, red or blue? And not only that, but, like, what if you're that one guy who wants to pick yellow? But then again, you're like, well, I feel like I'm wasting my vote because 99%
What's
of
the
other
point?
people are going to vote red or blue.
Yeah.
So I would promote, more political parties. I would promote fucking, we're all Americans here, right? That's the one thing we can.
Nationalism.
That's the one thing we can connect ourselves with. Well, besides, I guess.
14% of the country. 14% of the country is not born in America.
Well, huh? No
Yeah.
comment.
Isn't that? No comment.
No comment. Really role playing that presidency, aren't you?
I know.
I like this. I like this system better than just me ranting and then randomly being like, Robert.
Oh, and I have two other things that are off topic.
Well, you can wait your. Actually, do we have time for Robert to wait his turn?
Well, I was gonna.
Yeah, we will. We have time for Robert to wait his turn. So, Mr. Schlegel, or fuck,
Well, Schlegel,
The podcast.
what bagel
Robert.
are you going to be buttering?
Robert, we're not supposed to say his name.
What are you talking about? My name is
What do you
on
mean?
the title.
Oh, you're fine with me saying your name, your full name?
Yeah. I'm gonna say your
I thought you would
full
just put
name
Colt.
right now.
No.
Tom
Yeah.
Tom. Tom Spoon.
Tom Speed.
That's how Robert actually talks. The same way that we all have to actively do a Robert voice, he has to actively do a normal voice.
It's true.
It's true.
No, no way.
Wee woo wee woo. Kind of like Borat. That's how Robert actually sounds.
Just to know that.
I know. I need to rewatch Borat.
I've been watching Borat highlight clips so much. I'm pretty sure I've seen both the movies in their entirety, just in tiny little pieces. The second movie was garbage. The first one was good.
Sequelitis.
Mr. President Schlegel.
Yeah.
Sorry, prospective President Schlegel. What do you plan on doing? Perspective. Prospects of it. It could happen.
Mm-hmm.
You're running. 2022.
I believe in you.
Well,
Wait, 2020? Fuck, it's not an election year.
Yeah. I mean, it's midterm election.
You don't run for president in midterms.
Fair. Fine.
I guess unless we get rid of Biden in the middle of the year. But that's another hot button topic for a different time. So, what are you going to do in the face of Chinese aggression right now? Because as much fun as it is to sit around and talk about the Ukraine, I feel, and many Americans, not really, just mostly me, feel that China is a more ever-present threat than, like, let's say Russia is. So what are you going to do in order to quell Chinese expansionism and reaffirm our position in East Asia?
Simple. No nonsense approach.
No nonsense. Next question.
And and if they have the guts to line up troops on the border of I don't know any country really. Let's take South Korea for example. I would take a plane ticket to Seoul and then march to the front lines and just stand there.
Just stand there.
Just stand
So
there.
you would want to reaffirm the ideas of American muscle and American strength.
Yes.
Well,
Gun
that's
gun
good to know.
gunboat diplomacy.
Gunboat diplomacy. Back at it again with the Schlegel presidency. Colt, is there any closing remarks you would make about how you would change American society for the better?
Well, to quote Senator Armstrong, America is diseased, rotten to the core. There's no saving it. We need to wipe the slate clean. And in the ashes, a new America will be born, evolved but untamed. But in all seriousness, reshuffle the political landscape with, more than just red and blue.
Robert, please take your
Yeah,
mouth away from the microphone. I
I
swear to
know. It's
God.
How long has it been happening for?
like past
I
2 minutes.
just noticed. I
Ever
Oh,
just
ever since I
noticed.
started to do the
say it
Armstrong
next
bit.
time. Oh, then say it next time, and I'll fix it like I just did.
We did.
Well, I
But
guess yeah,
no.
you did say it as soon as you heard.
hmm
We were just very mean about it.
But
But
I do like Senator Armstrong's closing remarks. How people will die and kill for what they believe, not for money, not for oil. People not for what they're told is right. People will fight their own wars. If if you feel like let's say for example Ukraine, if you feel like Russia is the aggressor, go ahead and volunteer for Ukraine. If you feel like Ukraine should be taken out of its misery, volunteer for the Russians.
that's very nice, Colton.
Yeah.
Um, Robert, are you fine with me saying your last name on here or no?
No.
President Robert. So your enemy, President, sorry, presidential hopeful, president candidate. That's what it's called. Colton Schlegel's made some pretty interesting remarks. We're going to ask you some similar questions here. Um, so, what are you going to do to help heal the increasing radicalism in America today?
Well, I think I'd start with reinstating the law that President Barack Obama, or former President Barack Obama, what's the word? Took down, got rid of, wrote off, which was the press was allowed to, in removal of the law,